Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got a very interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Todd Begg Junkie Citadel. A design that has been around for a while. Actually, it was originally a full U.S. custom created by Todd Begg. That knife, of course, very few of those exist. They were multi-$1,000 customs. And that's not a price that most people are ready to spend on a pocket knife. This guy is definitely still expensive, but way, way more accessible, both in terms of just, how many are being made and the price on them. They are production knives that are being produced in collaboration with Artisan Cutlery. So that's who made this knife. As soon as I found out that this was going to be a thing, I immediately pre-ordered it. I put $50 down to deposit on the Todd Begg website and waited. And, it didn't take that long. It was a couple, maybe 2-3 months. And they sent me an invoice and I paid the rest of it. And here it is. So I'm very excited to talk about it today. I will link that page right down below. I also saw that you could apparently pre-order them on Knife Center. So there you go. Thanks so much to my patrons who are supporting me, and please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. Let me start off by saying that this is far and away the most ambitious knife that Artisan Cutlery has ever produced. A lot of people are going to go and look at the price tag and they're going to say, oh, that's so high for an there is way more going on here than anything else that Artisan Cutlery has ever put out. I mean, you can reduce it to just the materials, but the fact is that creating this blade, inlaying carbon fiber into the blade, inlaying carbon fiber into the frame, all of that, it's expensive. That being said, I do have many things to say and critique about this knife, and we are definitely going to get into it, so stay tuned. Let me go ahead and get a measurement. This is not a small knife, not at all. Overall length of the Junkie Citadel coming in at 9 inches. Overall blade length is coming in at 4 inches, and your cutting edge is coming in at about 3.65 inches. How about some size comparisons up against the Ontario Rad Model 1 and the Ontario Rad Model 2? I think we can see here that it is big. Not as big as the Cold Steel 4MAX. I know you need to tell them. We get it. But it, by most people's standards, it is going to be a large knife. How about up against the Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3? Yeah, still big. And then last but not least, let's go ahead and put it up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue, and the Benchmade Bug Out. All right, it's big. We've established that. How's the action on this knife? It runs on ceramic bearings and a ceramic detent. The action feels completely and totally different. This is like listen, Artisan Cutlery makes nice knives. Whether it's kind of their mid-range stuff, their budget stuff from CJRB, or some of their more premium stuff. They make nice knives that sort of, they fall within the expectations of the price range, right? This is a much more expensive knife, with a much more dialed in action. This thing is incredibly smooth. The detent feels nice and clicky. You can get nice leverage off of it. I mean, it truly feels like something that was designed by somebody who has been designing knives for a long time. And this information comes from him and is sent over to, basically he says, this is how you build it. Here's all of the details. Here are all of the, all of the measurements, all of the little tiny, in all the little things that you enter into the computer before it starts to create it, right? This is a great example of, when you have somebody who knows exactly what they're doing and then they send the information over, some of that translates extremely well. Not all of it translated perfectly to this knife, but holy crap, the action is absolutely ridiculous. Ceramic detent, ceramic bearings, very smooth, very enjoyable to flip. Perfection. Let's go ahead and take a look at carry profile. Thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. Yeah, this is thick. Absolutely no question about it. Length and height up against the PM2 and the Para 3. It is big, including the flipper tab. We are definitely challenging the maximum height of the PM2 and Para 3, though surprisingly not quite as tall. It's still, these guys are still a little bit taller. It's mainly the thickness and the overall weight of this guy that's going to bother some people. Materials, we have lots of carbon fiber laid into polished titanium. And then we have an S35 VN blade. Why not 20 CV? I don't know. I mean, like, you know, I guess I've always mentioned, like, when people act like they're missing out on some sort of major premium benefit when the designer or maker chooses S35 VN over 20 CV, just remember, there are lots of knives out there that come in at under $100 in 20 CV, right? We need to stop putting that 30-year-old composition up on a pedestal without considering that it is still well within the same parameters, the same premium parameters as steels like CBM S35EN, CBM S45EN, and other steels that people just blindly consider to be less premium for some reason, right? But edge retention is one of the cornerstones. Remember that. Wow, this metal complex guy sure is preachy. Moving on here, let's go ahead and measure the blade stock thickness, because it's thick. I think this is about 185 thousandths, if I'm not mistaken. Let's take a look. Come on now, you thing. Okay. 0. Okay. Blade stock thickness is coming in at, 189. Come on. 180. 185. That's what we're coming in at. We're in XM24 territory for sure. Weight. That's an interesting one. There is no, I mean, like, there are obviously lots of pockets milled out for the carbon fiber up here, but there's nothing on the inside that's excess, right? I mean, it is a liner. It is a titanium liner lock underneath, and a pretty thick one too. Oh boy, almost 8 ounces. This is a big knife, guys. Just know, nowhere near, you know, that ratio that we look for. People who love big, heavy knives, you're gonna like this. It has that, right? The balance, it's butt heavy for sure. We do have a big blade and a thick blade, but this guy is balanced quite a ways behind the pivot, and you're gonna notice it, right? It is a big knife. It is a heavy knife, no question about it. Okay, hardware check. Let's get out my tools. As per usual, my tools are very, ouch. Bless America, the back of those calipers are sharp. My tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel. The pivot, likely a T8. I haven't actually checked yet. Yup. And then in true artisan cutlery fashion, now I honestly don't know what the screws were on the original Citadel because, surprise, I've never handled it. Very few people have. I think you can check it out on Jim Skelton's channel. I honestly can't remember. Yeah, in true artisan cutlery fashion, they have gone with T6 screws. I don't know whose decision that was, if it was Artisan Cutlery's or Todd Begg's or whatever. Why? On this big of a knife, that just it just looks weird, right? A much larger, just do T8. But they chose T6, okay. It has more than what I'd consider to be minimal hardware, but, you know, truthfully, the construction on it is pretty simple. It won't be that difficult to take apart if you really want to. So there you go. Not bad. Not the best, but not bad. All right, let's go ahead and move into the meat and potatoes here. Wow, this is a really flashy knife. This is the type of knife, it's already down there, right? This is the type of knife where people go, that looks like a gas station knife. And, you know, what are you going to do? Gas station knives can only hope to come to looks like this, right? You know, it's one of those things where if you see a lot of gas station knives, I mean, most people, like, they're much more likely to see a gas station knife or a knife that is sold at a gas station that is just shiny or flashy than they are to see, you know, really, really high-end production knife, let alone something that's full custom. So people often get that backwards, right? But, you know, preferences on aesthetics aside, because that's all it is. It's a preference on aesthetic. The way that these things are produced, obviously, the difference between how this is produced and how a gas station knife is produced, it's night and day, right? But preferences for aesthetics aside, wow, this thing is a looker, and there is a lot going on here. Ergonomically, it is really comfortable. There is so much material, and the edges are so rounded down. This area right here is contoured. Just the amount of knife that fills your hand, I gotta say, it's really awesome to hang on to. This thing just feels so, you pick it up and it just feels like power. There's just a lot going on and it's comfortable. No part of it is angular or uncomfortable. The pocket clip is a little bit sharper on the edges, but still not sharp, and it is flat and has the little ceramic ball there, so not really creating much of a hotspot. You're also, while it does have some pretty heavy suggestions on where to put your fingers, I still feel like I have the freedom to move around a little bit. I mean, you can literally choke back on this thing and still have 4 fingers of grip. I still feel really comfortable no matter where I am on the knife, and I like that. It is weird to me that there's no jimping, but perhaps that was just, a design thing with the, with Todd Begg. Maybe he thought it would look ugly, right? Something that bothers me is, despite the fact that we have a pretty large gap here to get your finger in for the titanium liner lock, and they scalloped it on the left side, they did not on this side. So I find myself having to dig in there a little bit to engage it, and that just kind of bums me out. Had they just scalloped it exactly the same way on this side that they did on this side, it would make it much easier to, just that little tiny thing would make it much easier to access the liner lock. And I can still do it, and that's pretty nitpicky. But it's just annoying. Every time I go to disengage it, I'm like, eh, and then I got to get in there. Now, once you get in there, it moves. It's fine, right? There's the flipper tab comes down on your thumb, and there is absolutely no double clutch. I mean, it is super easy to engage, to engage the blade, not to disengage. Now, had they scallop that out, right, it's going to be a major benefit for people who like to sit around on their couch and flip it 100 times, which is, let's be honest, most of the people watching right now. I know, I got the hardcore users who are, in a hypothetical circumstance where they actually buy this knife to use, are going, well, that doesn't matter to me because I use my stuff. I don't sit around on the couch and flip it. I need everybody to know. Do y'all know? Look at me. I use my... All right, we get it. Thank you. But yeah, that is the truth. For people who are actually going to use it, you're obviously going to disengage it once and put it back in your pocket, right? It's going to bother people who sit around on the couch and flip it over and over again. I'm in that crowd. And it does. It's kind of annoying. Everything flows together. This design was all and it's crazy. If you look at the real custom, there's a lot of Begg's signature cracked ice, I think that's what he calls it, finish. And holy crap, that is beautiful. Make no mistake. The full custom has way more work in it. Full mirror polished, right? Mostly, I think there's a little bit of CNC, but mostly handmade elements. It is insane. But they did a really good job making this look like the original Citadel, especially the blue to purple anno, right? We can see, I showed this off in the unboxing. It's clearly, blue, and then we turn, and it is very much purple, and that's the case all the way around on this thing. That's something that I noticed on the original Citadel, how vibrant, and we had that kind of iridescence with the anodizing. It absolutely translated to this at least 95%. It is absolutely beautiful. Speaking of beautiful, let's talk about this blade. Now, I mentioned that the original custom was a fully mirror polished blade. Obviously, this is not fully mirror polished, but wow. I have never seen something from Artisan Cutlery, and I have rarely seen things from other ultra high-end production companies that match this polish at this price point. This looks really good. This is absolutely 100% a step above the normal. I mean, you can see that. The camera's having trouble focusing on it because it's trying to focus on what it's reflecting. Yeah, that's gorgeous. We have this sort of double, right, clip point, this double horns clip point blade. I don't know what to call it, but the swedge looks beautiful. The flat looks beautiful. The carbon fiber inlay, it kind of has that kind of raccoon eye look. That's what it makes me think of, right? Or bandit or ninja or whatever word makes it sound cool to you, right? But it looks good. What doesn't look good is the big war junkie thing on the blade. Why? It would have looked so much better. It would have looked so much better. I don't know why I said that. But it's on there, so what are you going to do? Edges up here are a little bit, right? You can see it's kind of shaving my fingernails up there, but that's fine. Those of you who like to strike ferro rods off of your expensive knives, then knock yourself out. You can do it on this thing. Nice big sharpening choil there. The edge is nice and symmetrical all the way down, which is something I expect from Artisan Cutlery and truthfully any, production knife company in 2022. The final cutting edge is fairly thick. Now it'll slice easily, Cutting paper, as many people have aggressively pointed out, it doesn't really prove anything. But if you want to know what it looks like, the factory edge slicing through paper, there you go. We can do it, right? It's not absolutely perfect. And in fact, we can see a little bit of, it's like lipping up on the paper, meaning the edge is thicker than an open L, right? It'll do it. It'll puncture, it'll slice, it'll do that, right? But it's not the most impressive thing in the world. Then again, I don't believe that was really the intention of this design, I think it was made to be used, but it was definitely meant to be, appreciated visually, aesthetically, right? Let's talk about some things that are less than impressive. At this price, I thought, I looked at it and I thought it's like I've said many times. It's definitely the most ambitious project that Artisan Cutlery has taken on, to my knowledge, because Todd Begg is known for a very specific aesthetic, and generally that aesthetic includes some pretty wild inlay lines, right? Now, his, reputation forever has been, hey, if you want something that's really like, it's a custom knife, but it's like really, really well done and everything is lined up perfectly, then, go with a Begg. And this has been pretty consistent. I mean, impressively consistent over a long period of time. As far as I know, the inlays on a true Todd Begg custom are essentially perfect, right? So when we get to a production company who's making the same thing and all of the knife is, it's like 100% CNC. I expect it to be perfect. It is this. There are a lot of crazy lines here, especially the ones like the inlays in the blade. Jeez, right? But at this price point, I thought it should be perfect. This, flaws on the inlays are unacceptable here. Despite the fact that this is really ambitious project. And unfortunately, not all of the inlays are perfect. In fact, if we look closely, and this is going to, prepare yourself, this is going to hurt a little bit when we close up, And that's the truth. This knife, when you're just looking at it from a regular distance, right, you're not going to see these things. Everybody that I have shown this knife to, right, knife people and non-knife people in my social circle, they have not picked up on these flaws. But me, someone who does zoom in and look at all of these things, oh yeah, I noticed them. And you know what? Anybody else who's going to spend $450 on this thing, which is what this costs, you're going to be looking close up at it as well. So, this is pretty good around here. We're doing okay. A little bit of jaggedness there. Yeah, this is a little bit jagged over here, right? Not perfectly smooth. We have some of these perfectly smooth lines, and then some more jaggedness, right? And the distance between the titanium and the inlay is pretty consistent. And in here, these lines look great. This all looks really nice, right? Over here, let's flip over to the other side. And it's some more of the same, right? A little bit of jaggedness there, a little bit. There's some right there, just a little bit. And this is really, a lot of people are going to go, and I know people are going to point that out. There's a void in the carbon fiber. There's it's almost impossible. With this much carbon fiber, it's almost impossible to not get a void, right? So I'm not really concerned with that, right? More jaggedness right there. Truthfully, a lot of this I can, it's kind of like, yeah, okay. That's how I felt. And then I came up here to look at the inlay on the blade. Now this side is pretty good, right? This is impressive, putting it in on the blade. And I thought, okay, as long as both sides of the inlay on the blade are impressive, I think I'll be all right. And then I got to this side. Well, first of all, I don't know if can we see it? Where is yeah, I can see it in my light. There it is, right there. crack or very, very deep scratch in the carbon fiber. That was super disappointing, really. Then, to stack on top of that, look at this. Look at this edge. What in the crap is going on here, man? This is unacceptable. This is lipped above. Look how, see, it's fine over here, but up here it's lipped above the steel. No. You know, it's possible that mine is just a little bit goofy. You know, there may be people watching this right now going, dude, I'm zoomed up on mine and everything is perfect. And I would say congratulations to you. But I was pretty bummed out about this. Now, you might be asking, well, why didn't you just contact him and say, hey, this is kind of messed up. Can I get a different one? Well, because I'm a reviewer, and I want to point this stuff out. I had high expectations for this knife. I have an enormous amount of respect for both Todd Begg and Artisan Cutlery, based on what I have experienced from them in the past. So if I get one of these, even if mine is a little bit weird, I'm still going to point it out. I do acknowledge, again, that mine could be a little bit weird. Now, I'm going to keep this, and I'm going to be okay. I'm not going to, you know, make Artisan or Todd Begg, you know, choke this one back down and, you know, force them to send me. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to hang on to this because I still like the knife. It bothers me that it's got flaws, but I still like it. But the main thing here is to point out, we don't just have, you know, a couple of flaws, right? We've got quite a bit of jaggedness on the inlays on the body, and we have a major screw up on the inlay on the blade. That is a huge bummer, right? Despite this being a very ambitious project, this is very complicated. It's not easy to do, right? But it's like if you're going to do it, you got to be sure. Got to be sure we can get all those inlays, you know, correct. The piece, like that piece of the carbon fiber sticking up, and it just has this totally unfinished chunk just sticking up out. That sucked, right? Do I notice it that much when I'm just looking at it in regular light? No. I can definitely see the little crack or the deep scratch there, and that really bothers me. But the rest of it, like, you know, the jaggedness, you really have to look close to see it. But it's there, so... Anyways, there's just so much going on with this knife, right? What people see first is the polish on the blade. I handed it to a bunch of people to see if they noticed anything, or if they, you know, would naturally say, like, these pieces of carbon fiber look kind of jank, right? Nobody did. So it's just me, like, look at this small detail. You know, it's just me doing that. But, you know, that's what I do. That's what I've been doing on this channel, is pointing that kind of stuff out. So, moving on here, some more impressive parts of the knife. You know, the polishing on the, and I've got my fingerprints all over it. Give me a second here while I use my shirt and try to wipe a lot of that off. The finish on the titanium does look very nice, and you know, if it looks like there's a blemish or anything, there's not. It's just the fingerprints, because it is a fingerprint magnet. But this looks really great. This area back here, this looks wonderful. This is all lined up correctly and feels really nice. I love all of this. I think this looks really cool, and it was executed very well. Even if you don't like how it looks, it was definitely executed properly. This is just nice looking, and the Citadel design is such a unique, crazy Todd Begg design, and you know, a lot of this was really captured nicely. I do like this little groove in here, this sort of channel that they've polished that goes right through the middle of it. It's nice, and it's on both sides. It just looks really good. The pocket clip is unfortunately one of those with the ball bearing thing, and I don't really like those, but it works. It's okay. Most of the knife disappears into your pocket. I mean, this is very close to like complete. It's deep carry, right? So you really have almost nothing hanging out of the pocket except for the top of this clip, which is going to catch people's eye because it's, you know, alternating between blue and purple, depending on the angle you're standing at. There's a gigantic lanyard hole that is fortunately not being prioritized over the clip. So if you'd like to hang a big, crazy lanyard off this thing, which, you know, I'll admit this knife is one that's more appropriate. It's already kind of crazy in the aesthetic, so if you want to make it even crazier, then there, knock yourself out, right? It's there. For everybody else, it's out of the way. No big deal. We have an internal stop pin. We can see right there, there are two pegs on either side of the blade that run on channels on the liners. And I like that. It creates for a nice solid lockup with very smooth action. No lock stick No pivot lash at all. Very consistent, very smooth action. I mean, you guys have seen, right? It's incredibly controlled. That's just gorgeous. The action on this thing is truly spectacular. And of course, because we have a liner lock, you do not need to worry about where your fingers are while you are flipping it. That's really cool. I'm glad they didn't cheap out and go with an exposed frame lock, right? They went full send. I like that. This is a nice, big, fat, robust titanium liner lock that does have, if we can see in there, it does have a lock bar insert, which is really nice. Nice touch. Really like that. And then we have, I believe, let's see, can we see here? It might have come slightly off center from me flipping it. I think I probably need to adjust the pivot just a little bit. But is it? Or is it just my, hold on, let's look. Nope, that's centered. It's just for some reason I'm being thrown. Why did it look like it was off? It's, okay, the blade's centered. But yeah, really nice detent, no detent lash or anything like that, and the lockup is completely and totally solid. Let me say this. Had there not been issues with the inlays, I would have said that this was one of the most impressive production knives of 2022. With minor, and I mean like just a couple of goofy lines in the inlays, I would have choked that down because there's so much room for error on those inlays, right? Even when you're not talking about something that's being hand done. I had to let it pass, a couple of them. But there's a lot. And the worst part of it is that terrible inlay on this one right here and this one right here. That sucked. If you manage to get one of these with no flaws in the inlays, I think it is easily worth the $450 you're going to pay for it. That's Chris Reeve territory. That's Rick Hinderer territory. Rick Hinderer and Chris Reeve do not have this level of complexity in their knives. Yes, they're making them in the United States, and this is a knife that's made in China, but at some point, right, those costs can come together or level out or meet at the same peak if enough additional work is going into it. This blade has a crazy polish on it. It's got an inlay on either side of the blade. It's got crazy inlays all over the knife, right? Titanium liner lock, and it's a lot of these materials. I don't want to hear about how S35EN isn't as premium as 20CV. We're probably talking about a $20 difference in the steel there. Yeah, no. If you get a perfect one of these, it's worth every penny. Crazy. Mine, I was pretty bummed out. I really wanted this thing to be perfect. I really wanted to sing its praises on top of a mountain. Really wanted to, but I can't ignore this stuff. Kind of bummed out. That being said, right, for people who are like, okay, but what if I'm looking for a knife I want to carry and use? This thing is freaking big, bulky, and heavy. It is balanced towards the butt end. It has kind of a thick edge. It'll work. You can use it as an EDC knife if you really want to. It's kind of a pretty blingy thing, but that doesn't mean that it's, a lot of people, I think people who are used to buying knives in the $50 territory assume that anything that is sparkly and shiny is also delicate, and that is not the case in the knife world. Oftentimes, that's just the same durable materials that you see on nice high-end production knives made to look shiny, but the functionality and, utility of the object is no different. It's the same. So, can you use this? Will it be a dependable cutting tool for a long period of time? Oh yeah, definitely. This thing will still be around long after we're all gone. It's definitely made. It's made to be used. And the S35EN is just going to complement the geometry. I mean, there's more toughness in S35EN. It's easier to sharpen, right? Less likely to chip, more likely to roll. It's better suited for this geometry anyway. This is a cool knife. I feel like I've only handled one of these, but, my perspective so far is it's a dice roll, right? If it was just one error, I would say you're probably good. You're probably going to be okay. But they're all over the place. So I feel like my brain is telling me I'm going to see that on a lot of them. I don't know that, but that's what I'm feeling here. Really wish they had scalloped the other side of this liner. They didn't. That would have really made a big difference in the action. I think this is cool. I hope that Todd Begg continues to do production knives. You know, if we're going to go through artisan needs to make sure that they are executing these things properly. And if they are unable to do it, then there needs to be something altered with the design so that they can, right? If you're going to do these crazy inlays, you got to do them perfectly. $450 is a lot of money, right? This would have been excusable if it was a sub $200 knife. It would have been annoying, but it would have been excusable. This is a $450 knife. Get those lines right. That's how I feel. I paid for this. Now I feel like I paid too much. Definitely would have paid a little bit more, honestly. I mean, if this had been absolutely perfect, I think I'd have paid $500 for it. As it sits, I'm just a little disappointed. Cool knife. Really wanted to put it in my favorite knives of all time playlist, but I can't. Not with these weird flaws and things. Really cool though. I'm still happy that this exists. It's still a very cool object, and it'll remain in my collection. That's gonna be pretty much it today, guys. Like I said, if it is available, I will link it right down below. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.